San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer, and we're going to be here the next 2 hours. Bryan Alvarez and myself talking pro wrestling. We got a lot of topics to discuss. We got a couple hours to discuss them. We got a full bank of phone calls, so you can jump on board as soon as somebody hangs up. We can talk about Bret Hart, who suffered a stroke on Monday. We can talk about the second one on Wednesday night, which had one incredible match and not a lot else. More on Vince Russo and World Wrestling Entertainment. We can talk about Raw. Quite an interesting show. Not necessarily a good one, but it was interesting. SmackDown, which was hell of a show. Pride, which is going on right as we speak. UFC. And any other talk in the world of pro wrestling. Anywhere in the world, you can jump in. Bryan, what is happening right now in the Pride Fighting Championships on pay-per-view?
We're just starting the Jeremy Horn versus Gilbert Ivell match. It's the fourth match on the show. Very quickly, the results. Bob Sapp killed Kiyoshi Tamura. Pretty much most of you that care about this show already know the results, but as far as how the match is looking in the opener, Bob Sapp is just this giant, very green fighter, but he weighed in at like 387 pounds, and Tamura was like, what was he, 190? 192, and Sapp just punched him in the head, and he fell down, and then he went to work on him on the ground, and they thankfully stopped it. I don't know if I'd call it an early stoppage, but Tamura wasn't in any danger, but I think any longer he would have been, so that was good. Gary Goodridge versus Labazimov Ahmed was quite horrible. They spent most of the time on the ground doing pretty much nothing. It was a split decision for Goodridge, and Goodridge in the final round it looked like he was out on his feet, just totally exhausted, and did nothing when he was down there, so that was the end of that. Anderson Silva beat Alex Stibling quickly, stopped on blood. I saw the very end of it, and it looked like it was bleeding a little bit, but nothing horrible, but they stopped it, so I'm sure there were people that will be arguing that finish, but that was that. Right now we're at Jeremy Horn versus Gilbert Ivell, and I had an epiphany during this match that Jeremy Horn is what Edge would look like without hair.
And and I guess that means that Edge probably shouldn't cut his hair.
Yes, he should not be cutting his hair anytime soon.
Okay, he's the one who always says that. He was like, no one's going to think I'm a pretty boy if I get a haircut.
And I'm looking at Jeremy Horn, and he's right.
Well, anyway, we can talk more about that as well. We're going to start getting to phone calls right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer, Sports Byline USA.
Time for more Wrestling Observer Live. Email the show now or anytime at WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. That's WOL@WrestlingObserver.com. Now, back to Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. I was thinking back about 6 summers ago, and Bret Hart had just retired from professional wrestling, or he was kind of wanting to be an actor. He had just lost the title to Shawn Michaels, and he did kind of a finish that would set up a rematch, which, eventually, he was, going back and forth whether he was going to come back to wrestle, spend more time with his fans. Wrestling got so competitive when Hall and Nash jumped to WCW, and Eric Bischoff was getting really aggressive, and they made him, his contract was running out, they made him a huge offer, and Vince McMahon made him a huge offer, and then these offers were like going back and forth, and he was just kind of sitting there, and, he was a guy who went from kind of wanting to retire from wrestling to, I can't retire from wrestling with all this money. I'm going to, work for, a couple more years, and I'm going to, sit on this island with nothing but money for the rest of my life.
Yep.
So he ended up taking Vince McMahon's offer because he trusted Vince McMahon, which we can get into that one, the irony of that. He trusted Vince McMahon more than Eric Bischoff at the time. So he took that offer for the 20-year contract, and everyone knows what happened. The story's always wrong, but everyone knows the basics of what happened there. And what's happened to him in the last, him and that family in the last 3 years, it is unbelievable. And he suffered a stroke on Monday. He was riding his bicycle at a very high speed on the trail that he always rides in Calgary. And he hit a pothole and he was not wearing a helmet. He went over the bicycle handlebars and landed on the back of his head and his back on the ground and called 911 and was able to call his ex-wife as well, and just took a really bad fall, went to the hospital, and the left side of his body was paralyzed, and in fact late that night they diagnosed that he had suffered. For the most part, he has no movement of his left arm. He has very, very limited movement of his left leg. I mean, no power, but he does have movement. They are hopeful of a close to full recovery. I don't think that a full recovery, but, coming on the heels of everything. We had him on the show just a few weeks ago after Davey Boy Smith died. And, the various deaths in his family, of course, Owen most notable. I don't know, it's an unbelievable story there. The heart
like one paragraph in the Calgary Sun. I was reading an article today, and I mean, just one paragraph. They talked about Owen died, Davey died, Helen died, Brett had a stroke, and right there I was just thinking,
Matthew Annis died,
poor
96, and I don't know what else to say.
I need to compare him to the Von Erichs, but I mean, look at Fritz. I mean, he outlived everybody. All those terrible things that happened to the family, and poor Stu's going through the same thing. Yeah, the Von Erichs and the Hearts are very different, though. Other than Davey Boy, I mean, I would say Davey Boy's situation is very similar to the Von Erichs. But but the rest of them, the Von Erichs, it was not a series of freak accidents. It was just you could have seen it coming.
Suicide, everyone saw it coming. Whereas this one, I mean, the Owen Hart thing was a total freak thing. Matthew Annis, died of at the age of whatever was 14 of this rare flesh-eating disease. Brett's stroke, Brett's concussion. We didn't even talk about that. His career ending up jaw. I mean, that concussion in the match with Goldberg, or a series of concussions actually. The doctors, when he had the concussion, he was told that if he continued to wrestle, there was the possibility of a stroke.
Yeah.
But the doctors apparently have ruled out that concussion that he got from Bill Goldberg had nothing to do with...
Yeah, but how can you say that, though?
I don't know how they can...
I'm not going to question the doctor or anything like that, but, I mean, when you think about it, this guy had all these concussions, forced him to retire from wrestling, and all of a sudden this thing happens, and whether he had the stroke before or after, I guess, would make a difference. But if he had a pothole, flew over the handlebars, took a bump on the cement...
What's the difference between that bump and a terrible professional wrestling bump, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then he had a stroke, and here's a doctor going, oh, well... I mean, how can you even say that?
They did. I mean, when I first heard it, when I first heard about what was happening on Monday, Tuesday, I had thought, one probably had to do with the other because I knew, the things that he was told. But they ruled, they said that that's not the case. NWA TNA on Wednesday night, their second pay-per-view. I thought that the match with Low-Key AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, and Psychosis was just about the best match I've seen in the United States this year. It was phenomenal, and as good as that match was, I thought everything else on the show was I'm watching the show, and I'm so sad, because I could feel the day of the show, there really wasn't much of a buzz, and then when the reaction came in over the next couple of show, which is, whatever it was, people liked the first show, but they didn't come back for a second show, and I mean, we can all say why that happened, and I was curious, but the bottom line is it happened, and, I don't know where they're going to go from here.
I almost think that they're hardcore internet fans and casual internet fans because I have a lot of friends that I wouldn't call them like casual fans because they go online and they read stuff every now and then, but they don't go up there every day and read every site and know everything.
Well, nobody does.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's some people that go on every day and look for news.
Yeah.
And I think
there are people
on maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And my friends that go on 2 or 3 times a week that are, I guess, semi-hardcore internet fans, they all bought the first show. And for them was 100%. Like, every single one of them bought the first show, and that was the end of that.
And why did they say?
They just wanted to see what the first show was like. That was all the interest they had, was just to see what the first show was like. And I guess Jeremy Borash's thing about, convincing them with that one show to tune into the next one didn't work because they bought the show, they thought it wasn't too bad, and that was, that was it. They didn't care the next week.
I mean, the thing was the first show we got generally good reviews. The second show we got even better reviews. But the bottom line is that most of the people, or half of the people who watched the first show, didn't buy the second show, whether they liked it or not. Brian, I got Figure 4 the other day, and where did you come up with that Frank Gotch thing? That was like the greatest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Wow.
The Frank Gotch gangster rap.
Well, how about Compton? It all grew from there.
That was unbelievable. That and your prom story.
Oh, yes. Let's not repeat that one on the air. It's too low credibility.
It's too late. You went to your prom and you didn't go with Tori Wilson.
No, I didn't, fortunate. I didn't break my leg first. I went to prom, and then afterwards we went and jumped on the trampoline at the gymnastics place.
And why did you do that?
I don't know. It was just like, well, we got a key. Why not? I was young.
Okay. Anyway, I don't even know what to say about that. Other than
what a geek.
Yeah, but hey, you know who could be writing WWF in 3 or 4 weeks?
Oh, that's right.
Talking about you. You would have lasted what, 3 weeks, 5 weeks max.
I always think about if I were like on the writing crew, and with all the horrible things that have been on TV, I can just see myself sitting back there and making some sarcastic comment or coming up with just the most absurd angle, just as a total joke to try and lighten up the attitude, and them doing it. I swear to God, I could see that.
This is your life, Mick Foley and Loren Ross.
Like the Time Cop thing that I wrote about this week with the wrestler called Time Cop.
Yeah.
Where his gimmick would be that he goes back in time and, he always knows that he's going to lose, but he still does the match and loses. He cuts a promo afterwards saying, I knew I was going to lose. And I can see myself, like this the whole Disco Inferno thing he was talking about. I can't remember what the angle was they were talking about on the internet that he was going with.
Oh, the ad man?
Yeah, the ad man or whatever it was. And, I'm sure that he's come up with ideas in the past that he's meant strictly as a joke, and people have taken him seriously. And some have probably ended up on TV. And I just see that happening.
Did you say, what do you think of Cheeks?
Cheeks was like the fattest man he was going with.
Oh, the ad man?
Yeah, the ad man or whatever it was. And, I'm sure that he's come up with ideas in the past that he's meant strictly as a joke, and people have taken him seriously. And some have probably ended up on TV. And I just see that happening.
Did you say, what do you think of Cheeks?
Cheeks was like the fattest man that I've ever seen in wrestling. And I know there have been larger people, but even with a guy like Yokozuna, but I could still look at him and kind of see like a base of muscle underneath him, you know what I mean? Like he kind of...
Oh, he was like you knew that if he was like 400 pounds, exactly.
Yeah, like he had some real power behind him.
Yes, he did.
Like he was a very strong man. But I just look at Cheeks, and, he was like a guy you'd see on the Jerry Springer show. And it was, I don't know. I could not believe they put him on TV.
That was what... I'm watching that show, and even knowing that this main event's going to be great, I see, like, the second week crowd, and thankfully, they learned early. It's like they can't do that again. Like tape 2 shows in one night. But they had a taped show, and Cheeks still aired on the show, and it's like, it was so bad. And I just don't understand, like, when something's that bad, like with Vince McMahon on SmackDown, one of the reasons why SmackDown is usually better than Raw is because if Cheeks showed up on SmackDown, Vince McMahon would just go, this is nuts. It's just not going to make the air.
Yeah, the difference, though, is for SmackDown, I think they tape more than 2 hours, plus they have all that syndicated stuff. So if all else fails, they can put something else in there. But I think TNA, I think they had an hour and 45 minutes worth of footage. And without the Cheeks thing and the women thing, they'd have had like an hour and 15 minutes of footage.
They should have just kept taping on that night. How smart do you have to be when the Cheeks thing is going on and going like, okay, this isn't good. Let's throw James Storm and somebody out there and just have like a nice little match.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, and it doesn't require that much thinking on your feet. That was one thing I was really disappointed with. Anyway, we're going to start getting phone calls right after this break. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer live on the Sports Byline USA radio network.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER. That's 1-866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter with Bryan Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. If you're interested in information on how to get either of the 2 publications, Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is most detailed wrestling news you're going to find anywhere in the world, cover the whole world. You can go to www.wrestlingobserver.com, and you can also click on to get information on Figure 4 Weekly, which, believe me, if you get Figure 4 Weekly, you will be entertained for an hour every week, and you'll laugh like crazy, and you'll learn a lot about wrestling at the same time. Brian's got tremendous insight into this business, as those of you who listen to the show know. We're going to start in Queens, New York, with Joe. Joe, what's happening?
Hey, Dave.
Yes.
How you doing?
Doing great.
I just have a question about NWA TNA.
Yes.
Their card looks really weak this week, so how much longer do you think it's going to last?
I'm not the right person to ask that question because I don't know what their goals are and things like that, and how far along they are in their goals. But if they do not get strong television and they do not revamp their format, I don't see it as a winning project. That's for sure. And I think most people are already writing it off.
I actually thought weeks when I heard the original plan, but I guess it's going to last.
I think they'll last
longer than that.
I think they'll last a little longer than that, but I don't know. I mean, if
this buy rate number happens to come in and it's 10,000, I don't see why they would possibly do another show.
But I think they will. But one of the things is they are probably getting fake buy rate numbers, okay? Because in demand,
it's fake, just that people don't know yet.
Yeah, and they're not going to get real numbers for probably 2 to 3 months. And at that point, boy, they're going to be such in a deep hole financially because it costs probably $250,000 to run one of those things every week.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I just want to say, get well, Brett. And Sean O'Hare looked really good on Heat today.
Oh, good.
Waiting for the replay to come on.
Oh, good.
Yes, all right, that's it.
we're still in the middle of Horn versus Ivell, and I'm just kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye, but it looks damn good.
Really?
I mean, it doesn't look like it was totally one-sided. It's, I think pretty much both guys getting their shots in, and I can't even remember the results of this match, but was it split decision?
No, it wasn't. It was a unanimous decision.
Really?
Yes.
Looking competitive so far.
Okay, let's go to Alan in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Alan, what's happening?
Hey, Dave, how's it going, man?
Going really good.
Vince Russo's coming in to be the writer. Now, I wanted to ask you about the Bash at the Beach incident because I don't get the Observer anymore. How much of the Vince Russo incident was a planned angle?
Everything up until he did that promo. I think he planned the whole thing.
Without Hogan's knowledge.
As far as the interview, I don't think Hogan knew about the interview, but everything else Hogan had full knowledge of.
Okay, so when Jarrett laid down, I was...
Oh, yeah. Why do you think they didn't turn the mic off on Hogan?
Okay.
Yeah.
And has the lawsuit between Hogan and Russo been resolved, or is it still tension, or what?
They don't like each other. The lawsuit has not been resolved, but it's a very weak case because, see, the whole case on Hogan suing is that he would have to prove damages in that Vince Russo by making those comments his career. And it's pretty hard considering the success Hogan's having right now to say that his career was all that damaged.
What were the comments anyway? Like, you're old?
Yeah.
How do you go to court and go, he called me old? I'm 49, but...
Ask you something, because I was talking to Kevin Sullivan yesterday at the FOW show, and I don't know if he was working me or not, but he said at one time that him and Dusty Rhodes didn't really get along. Is that true?
Oh, I'm sure that, Gort, that they probably had been around for 20 years.
Right.
With Dusty Rhodes has their points, where they're not going to get along. Dusty, Dusty had a lot of power, and everyone in power kind of people don't like. I mean, so.
It's Terry Funk's birthday today. I was going to ask you about
That's right. It's June 30th. It's Terry Funk's birthday. 58 years old.
Did Dusty and him ever have problems, or was that all just part of the angle, or what?
Well, I mean, everything they did on TV was an angle, but I mean, as far as they had their ups and downs too,
Yeah.
But I mean, they always, but it never got in the way of working together. I mean, Terry Funk. I've never heard of anyone that Terry Funk ever had a problem with that got in the way of working a good match if need be.
Do personal problems in wrestling ever cause two people to not work together if there's money to be made?
Bill Goldberg and Vince Russo, maybe.
See how much money is thrown at him.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, they want they want him, and he's not returning their calls.
I seriously think that every day his value has to go up, like every
hour.
But what about Helmsley and Goldberg? Are they going to be able to work out their differences and try to work a program?
I would think that
to make money.
I would think that Helmsley would be willing to work with him, but maybe not work with him right. And Goldberg, it'd be tricky.
Put him over.
What? Helmsley be willing to put him over? He'd cry and moan and say it's the worst thing for business. I don't know. I mean...
Yeah, but you know what? If business really got so bad that Hunter in the main events was, or not even in the main events, was just making significantly less money, I think he's smart enough to get it right with Goldberg. He could make some money.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But we'll see how bad business gets before they bring him in for the program.
Yeah.
So you think he's coming in anytime soon?
Goldberg? No, not soon, no. At some point, I can't imagine it not happening. But then again, I would have said that a year ago. They should have brought him in right when they bought that company, and things would have been very different.
Vince McMahon is trying to make up with him, or is he just trying to be respectful, or what?
He's being respectful. If Vince McMahon, Vince McMahon's not a horrible person in that if there was word from Bret Hart that that he would like Vince to call. I'm sure Vince would call. I don't know that Vince would take the time to do it. There's not a question in my mind. I don't know that Brett really. I don't know if he wants to hear from Vince right now or not. I don't know.
You think they'll ever work together?
I don't. You know what's funny is if he were to make any kind of full recovery or close to a full recovery, the odds might. If you had asked me that like a week ago, I would say probably never. Now, depending on how Vince McMahon reacts and how Bret Hart reacts, and if Bret Hart makes a full I think Bret Hart's never going to rush to come out there. Maybe he'll want that. Maybe Bret Hart will want that in like a year and a half from now.
Maybe, but then people say the Survivor Series is old.
They're not going to say it now. I mean, come on. If the guys come back,
say it till
if it never comes back, people will say it.
Yeah, you can't change anybody's mind no matter what.
Yeah, well, a lot of those depositions have changed people's minds, but I know it doesn't. Anyway, we got to get
10 years though. If people don't believe it now, who cares?
All right. That's true, too.
If you're that ignorant after 10 years, then...
In 5 years, but I know, seriously. Seriously, at this point...
Like 100 years.
At this point, you're right. You're right. At this point, it's just ridiculous.
It's a trivial situation what's going on now, but... compared to what's going on now with the family and stuff.
The one thing, and again, this is, very trivial... But unless Russo comes in and writes, which is a pretty decent shot, I do believe that those angles regarding Montreal are over for real this time.
Mm-hmm.
If Russo comes in, though, Russo will want to do something, because that's all he knows.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to get running, okay?
Thank you, man.
Okay, let's go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's happening?
Hey, guys, how's it going? What I want to talk today about is John Cena.
Yes.
When I saw SmackDown, I have to honestly say I had the same feelings that when I saw Sting in the UWF way back in the day.
It's funny you should say Sting. You're saying Sting like I wrote that every week for about the last. But he reminds me of Sting, so when they brought him up, they wouldn't vote like Deacon Batista.
Deacon Dave.
Yeah. Well, actually, took the Deacon away from him. But anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Okay. What I thought it was, how did you feel that the angle went up? Do you think?
Even though they made it was better.
And you know what I thought was so great about that finish was. Angle's out there, and here's the supposed rookie coming out and just, hitting everything in the book on this guy in a pro wrestling match, and finally Angle just snaps and hooks him a double chicken wing and pins him. And, that right there, I don't know if they planned it like that or not, but it just seemed like it made it so much better. Like, here's this guy that had to resort to his Olympic wrestling gold medal skills to beat this kid because he couldn't do it in a pro wrestling match.
Is that how you saw it?
Yeah.
You're the only one who saw it that way.
Really?
I thought that it was I thought it was great. They made a guy in one night. The thing is now they got to follow up on it. And
who could have done a better job than Angle?
Hey, I got all the respect in the world for Angle, but he was Ric Flair on Thursday night.
Yes, he was.
That was like a Ric Flair performance with Sting. Where Ric Flair did the same thing with Sting. Except it took him 45 minutes to do it, but.
Yeah, and Sting had a few more years' experience.
Sting had a little bit more experience. But Cena's been around for, about 2 years? When did we first...
I think about a year and a half, because I just put up one of those 1 year ago deals, and he was just coming from UPW.
Yeah, but he was in UPW for a while. He started when they did that... remember that just started when that thing had aired?
The Discovery Channel thing?
Yeah, I'm thinking that was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, and... one more thing I wanted to ask you. I reread Tributes again this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the story between Bruiser Brody and Gorilla Monsoon wanting to go at it at a match?
Gorilla Monsoon was like the enforcer for the WWF as it was known at the time, and they had a difference of opinion. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but they ended up being, it ended up where they almost got into it. They didn't get into it, and a lot of phone calls were made, and Bruiser Brody went from being a main event in the WWF to having no promoters in the United States even wanting to use him, and he had to go all the way to Australia as a pro wrestler. So those phone calls must have been must have said something about do not use Bruiser Brody.
Oh, okay. And I have a question for Bryan.
Yeah.
Bryan, I know you had mentioned a little bit about Taylor Massey on the Figure 4 this week.
Hold on, we gotta get running right now, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay, you're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Am I going to fall asleep during the Gary Goodrich match when I go home?
Oh, God, just fast forward right through it.
Okay.
You don't need to see it.
Okay, well, that's good to know. You know, I was thinking during the break that, when we were talking...
By the way, you know who was in Tamura's corner?
Kasaka?
Yeah.
Okay, then I got it right.
He trains with Bob Sapp.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed that. I heard about all that. That's kind of weird, huh?
That was quite amusing. I think they all knew that Tamura was dead, so...
I did. I was so brutally against this fight. I emailed the Pride people and I go, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You trying to kill this poor guy?"
You know, when it was over, my brother looks at me and goes, "Tamura has balls." And I went, "Yes, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Very brave man."
But you know what? I mean,
and he faced Vanderlei Silva.
And he gave Vanderlei Silva a real fight.
Yeah.
But I mean, see, that's what's okay. Tamura and Sakuraba could have fought each other and done business, and now they can't. And see, that's what's, they could have had Bob Sapp, beat any 190-pound guy in the world, and he would have done it.
Yeah.
So why did they have to pick a guy who, has drawing power and charisma?
I think it's just they think that Bob Sapp is like the future, and at least, Kiyoshi Tamura has a name.
Yes, he does.
And so you had this monster kill this legend in 11 seconds.
Well, so much for
doing something for his career.
So much for Frank Shamrock and Kiyoshi Tamura. What was the plan up until about 11 seconds? Let's go to Jim in Fort Lauderdale. Jim, what's happening?
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
All right. Just found your website. Love it, guys.
Oh, thanks very much.
I got a couple questions about Chris Jericho.
Okay.
I'm getting the impression that the WWE has given up on him.
They can't afford to because they don't have a lot of depth, especially with a brand extension. So they've got to keep him pretty strong, and he did a really good job on Thursday.
Oh God, he did an awesome job.
Yeah, I think he did the best job with Hogan of anyone since since Ric Flair in his prime, probably.
Is there any chance that you're going to make him a face again? Because I haven't seen any of that as a heel.
Someday I'm sure, but I mean, as far as short term, I don't think so. No, I mean, they could do that tomorrow, but I don't see any hints of Jericho going face. No.
I miss it because I'm new to all the wrestling and everything, but when him and Rock were both faces going off, I don't think they give him the leeway as a heel to go off and do the mic work that I think he's capable of.
Him and Rock, that was the last great program, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Really, just great, great matches, great interviews.
I miss it, and I hope it comes back. And
I miss a lot of stuff from the years.
I miss that Kurt Angle, Triple H stuff up until they wrestled.
Yeah.
They just ruined it.
And they gave it, oh, God.
Yeah.
That's like the Invasion. That was going to haunt me forever, too.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, and like I said, enjoy the website. Thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Adam in Rochester, New York. Adam, what's happening?
Hey, what's up? I've been listening for so long.
Oh, good.
I have one quick question. I'm hoping you could settle a bet between me and my buddy for $1,000. Who do you think's a better overall total package wrestler, HBK, Bret Hart, and then...
It depends. $1,000.
It depends on.
It's $1,000.
It depends on what depends on what you consider. But I mean, if you were to say better in the ring performance,
you just won me money.
What did you say, Brian?
I'm still getting over the $1,000.
I know. Brian, what would you say?
I would say Michaels.
Yeah.
Thank you. God,
I had to get a best of Shawn Michaels comp or a best of Bret Hart comp. I'm afraid I'd get the Shawn Michaels.
I've got them both, and the Shawn Michaels one is better.
Yeah. I mean, it's no knock on Bret Hart because, I guess in that era, he was the close second. You know what I mean? I mean, they are the only two guys who ever got a match out of Kevin Nash, so.
Oh, they were those pink frickin' tights, the both of them now.
Yeah.
One more question. Are they ever going to give up on this god-awful brand extension? Because it's boring, and...
I think we gave up on day one.
They gave up
and put it back together.
On doing it right from day one, but I mean they're bound and determined, in everything they say that they're not giving it up. But I think inevitably they will.
Yeah, I think the thing right now is that all of these articles have come out in the last 2 weeks talking about our ratings are down, things are failing, and I think that Vince looks at these articles and goes, okay, we're going to keep this thing alive at least until this dies down because I don't need another failure being touted in the media after all this other stuff has happened.
But I have to see The Undertaker on both shows.
Well, that will not last much longer because he's not going to be champion.
I'm going to put a pen in my eye if it keeps up.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be champion past the next pay-per-view, hopefully. And if he is, they're really stupid.
Oh, yeah, because they've never proved that before.
No, but I don't think that Angle's going to get the belt on Tuesday.
No Jeff Hardy on Monday?
I can't. Oh, Jeff Hardy's going to get... I don't know. I don't think he's going to get the belt on Monday.
When they did announce that match, though, I kind of, for a moment, thought, oh, my God. Are they going to give this belt to Jeff Hardy?
Okay, they go to Jeff Hardy on Monday and then Kurt Angle on Tuesday. And then Kurt, he takes he goes on to the SmackDown show and loses to Kurt Angle. That way Undertaker never had to lose to Kurt Angle.
I guess they could do that.
And then Kurt gets the title.
I mean, the reason I thought that was they have killed Jeff for so long. And then he cuts that promo like, you've just beaten me here, you've beaten my ass everywhere we go, now we're gonna do this ladder match, and I just thought, why would they do this?
Why do they even put mics near those two guys' face? Neither of them...
though.
Oh, you suck. Come on. All right, you guys do a hell of a job. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. We're going to go to Bryan in Raleigh, North Carolina. Bryan, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, guys? No bets here, but I got a question for you. How bad do you think is the NWO gotten in the past couple months? The whole thing with Vince McMahon saying, I'm going to change...
From day one, yes. We
I mean, it's just so dumb. And then they bring in Shawn Michaels, who everyone's so excited about. I'm a huge Michaels fan. And what doesn't show up at the King of the Ring except to hug Triple H. I mean, this guy is so underutilized. It's disgusting.
But they put him in the ring, and then the problem is once they put him in the ring, over. What if he can't do anything anymore?
Well, you know what? He's got to do something more than what he's doing. I mean, when is Nash coming back?
Yeah, I think so. Nash will be back in 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks.
Why can't they get back to they're not badasses, They're just something they're made fun of by Booker T and Goldust. It's a big mess. And I think the big thing what they need, and I think they need Hogan back in there.
Yeah, but no one's going to heel though. No, they tried. Hogan can't be a heel now.
Well,
they kept him on TV every week for about 6 months. I think he could pull it off.
Yes, but wrong,
Yeah, wrong kind of heat.
Yeah.
I just think it's old. That's all I have to say. I wish the NWO would change. And Bryan, you're out the NWA TNA. I read the
About 6 months. I think he could pull it off.
Yes, but then it'd be the wrong,
Yeah, wrong kind of heat.
Yeah.
I just think it's old. That's all I have to say. I wish the NWO would change. And Bryan, you're absolutely right about the NWA TNA. I read the internet all the time, and I watched the first show, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no interest in getting it again. Bad. It was just, it was okay, but I'll never order it again.
Wow, and they had a great match on Wednesday. I mean, great, but anyway.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, let's go to Ricky
Wasn't it prophetic, by the way, when Vince said he was going to inject that poison?
Well, we said when he said that. When he said that, we said it was, and he didn't even know that he was right.
Yep.
We knew it before he did, which is not unusual.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, Rick, what's happening?
Nothing much. Real quick, I heard that Jeff Hardy match, and then I was live in Chicago at SmackDown tapings, the Angle, and he is totally awesome. It's like...
Oh, he was on... he always
that
is.
match with Cena, as good as it was seeing it on TV, it was better live, because the crowd was so into it.
When did they figure out that Cena wasn't just a jobber? How long did it take before they figured that out?
I think it happened when he hit that DDT, where I think Angle was going for the Olympic Slam.
Yeah, and he went behind into the DDT.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because then you got all those quick near falls there. But I was wondering, as far as with the Jeff Hardy match, the ladder match, I was thinking that they would give Angle the belt on SmackDown this week because, let's say the Undertaker wins the ladder match, but he gets really exhausted through it, and then you have Angle beating up a weakened Undertaker. And then you would have a guy who can work with a variety of opponents and make them all look good. And not just
I would love for Angle to get the belt because that means you got Angle and Rock on the next pay-per-view, which is an awesome match. They have perfect chemistry.
Right, or even Angle, if let's say you have Angle go over Rock the next pay-per-view. I know this may not happen at all.
And then you already go to Angle and Lesnar?
Yeah, I mean, that would be like the perfect guy. I mean, as far as that would be the perfect guy to main, you know. You like you see the way he's kind of, I mean, he's still kind of tentative, especially with that RVD match the 2 RVD matches he's had.
Well, he did better on the second one than the first.
Yeah. The other question I had real quick is, I was watching Velocity for whatever reason last night, and I was watching Tajiri basically take out Albert to the garbage there, and I'm just wondering, is Vince? He's suddenly bringing all these new guys from Ohio Valley Wrestling and HWA. The guys who they've tried, like the Alberts and the Just Incredibles,
they're in trouble.
For whatever reason, do you think these guys spot pretty?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if they when they give up on the brand extension, I think those guys, especially Just Incredible, is in real jeopardy.
Because I mean they're getting higher salaries, right?
And I don't think that many of the guys' downsides are all that enormous these days, except for Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan.
But wouldn't Vince be paying a lot less for guys, younger guys, who don't have the baggage with the audience, who the audience has turned off for whatever reason?
Yes. The OVW guys would have lower downsides than an Albert or somebody like that.
Right. And just one last question. Do you think Jake from Tough Enough 2 is like, well, if he saw the lingerie contest on Saturday, that really came.
I will tell you that after seeing those girls, especially with what they've done with Jackie, I'll bet you that Kenny and Jake are just flipping because they're fuming. They're not, even if what they're saying is correct, and I believe it is. Those guys will never believe it in their natural lifetimes.
Well, Jake should be fuming for the $1,000 that he got for just, staying out for 6 months.
What an idiot.
Yeah. Well, it's in the contract. That's not his call. That's their call. It's in the contract. Anyway, we got to get running because we got to hit a break right now.
We're back with Wrestling Observer Live. Give us a call anywhere in the U.S. toll-free at 1-866-OBSERVER, 866-627-3783. Once again, here's Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Bryan Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. Bryan, what's happening with Enzo Gracie?
We're watching the Fedor versus Schilt match right now. It's about to start. Enzo Gracie lost the decision, and Shungo Yama was the happiest man in the entire world.
I bet.
I've rarely seen a man as happy as this guy was. They were about to do, they're both standing there waiting for the decision, and he had just his eyes clenched closed, just praying to the Lord, and he got the win.
He deserved it, though, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. I was just watching out of the corner of my eye like all these tonight, but he looked like he was clearly in control the whole time, and Gracie doing the crab, and, I think it was a good decision.
Show, because we're on Sunday, and as weird as this sounds, in wrestling, Monday Night Raw by Sunday becomes old news, but the first hour of Raw last week, I thought was just terrible. And especially that opening segment, I was just going like, like every single thing that could be wrong. I mean, they sat out there and they brought everybody out there except for the stars, and they basically told you, we have no stars on Raw. So
who are we going to create?
Bubba Ray
wants to stop being a jobber.
Yeah. And then Vince is out there telling, that historical, his revisionist history of his life, and it's just like, God, give us some entertainment. I
think that Vince would actually be like Clint right now. He didn't have these promos come out and it's like therapy for him. You could tell
I know it.
Come out that day, and he was talking to the editors of Variety, just going, look, I am Vince McMahon, and I've created blah, blah, blah.
I did all this. I beat all those guys.
Yeah.
I beat them all, and I'm going to do it again. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I've done it before, so somehow it's going to happen again. It always does. Anyway, that's pretty much all the time we got in this hour. We're going to be back. We got a full bank of phone calls to get to, so hold on, everybody. And we'll see you on the other end. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.